Hello, this is Leadership Live. I'm David Rubenstein, where I've been talking to many CEOs who are running companies during the COVID crisis from their homes and seeing how they're doing that. And today we're very pleased and honored to have Oscar Munoz with us. Oscar is the CEO of United Airlines, a company that obviously has been affected by this as much as any company in the United States. Oscar, thank you very much for coming today.
Thank you for having me, David.
So I want to make sure everybody is familiar with your story, which is an incredible story before we go into COVID-19. You are the oldest of 9 children, is that right?
That's true.
So you have 4 children yourself, and you have how many nieces and nephews?
I think around 37 at last count.
And do any of them fly anything other than United?
Absolutely not.
Right, of course. So you are your first in your family to go to college, and you have an undergraduate degree from USC, and then you got your MBA from Pepperdine, and then you worked through a series of positions at Coca-Cola, Pepsi, and US West, and then CSX. And you rose, yes, and you rose up to be the CEO of CSX while you were on the board of United Airlines.
I was president and COO as well as COO
okay.
of CSX. Yeah.
President and COO, and then somebody came along and said to you, if you're on the board of United Airlines, that you should become the CEO. They needed a new CEO, and you decided to do so. And I assume you never regretted that decision. You were happy you did that, right?
CSX was an incredible company, but I think United offered exactly what's transpired, a real important and difficult challenge in my career progression about where it was, and it certainly was a turnaround. CSX had been a turnaround, my previous company, and I'd been part of a team. So I really felt the chance that this was my chance to do it myself with another
So you
team.
took over that position in September of 2015. And in October of 2015, you had a heart attack. And a few months later, you had a heart transplant. And then you went back to work a few months after that. So had you been in good health before you went to United Airlines? And were you shocked that you had a heart attack?
Yeah, that's the one thing about heart disease, and I could give a whole PSA on that. But it is one of those diseases that you don't often know. I was a marathon runner. I was a vegan, and worked out as much as we can given our schedules. So it was a bit of a shock to have that kind of disease, and not so and as much to have it as serious as it actually manifested itself.
And then you were running the company. You came back from the heart attack. You're running the company, and then you said to your colleagues one day, I have to go do something today. And by the way, I'll let you know later what it is. And then you got a heart transplant.
Yeah, that's exactly it. Technically, the legal people tell me I have to say that I was technically on medical leave, but yes, I was coming into the office. In my mind, I knew we were waiting for the heart, but we really couldn't tell anybody just for all the obvious reasons. But yeah, on the morning of my birthday, I got a call from my doctor saying, we have a heart for you. And I said, that's terrific. When do you need me in? They said, well, not till this afternoon. So I went into the office, and we had a wonderful strategic conversation going about the future of the company, where a lot of the foundation for what we've been able to do at United was founded that very morning. And at lunchtime, I stood up and said, hey guys, I got to run. I got to go to the hospital. There's something I've been waiting for. And a now infamous line in the sense that it had 2 meanings. I said, I'll see you on the other side. And I could have been misconstrued in a lot of different ways, but it was the foundation of the beginning of the great turnaround story at United.
Well, the turnaround story is that when you came back, I think in March, to run the company full-time as the CEO, you did turn the company around. The market capitalization went up about 25%. The stock price went up about 70%. I think it was 56 when you took over, it went to 96. So it was an incredible story. And you had announced a while ago that you were going to leave this week. This was the week you had planned to step down, announcing that you had a very good successor and you're going to become the executive chairman and go out on this incredible high. So what happened?
Well, as always, fate and the good Lord above has different plans, and it's tragic what's happened. This COVID virus is insidious and global as everything, and our industry is very familiar with crises. We've had these pandemics before. Of course, we had 9/11. 9/11 was the black swan moment of this era of the industry for us. And we were well prepared for that financially. Our balance sheet was strong. And then something like this hits, and we were one of the first to see its potential impact on our industry, and we took action fairly quickly. but boy, it is just heartbreaking to see how much we've lost on so many fronts.
So let's talk about put the numbers out. How many routes does United Airlines fly in the best of times? You fly how many routes around the world?
Oh gosh, we have approximately 1,400 planes working every day. So we
Okay.
fly into almost 60 different countries around the world. Every single post and
Okay.
point here.
So
So we
let's
have
say 14.
243 stations. So I could go on the numbers for.
All right. So right. So right now, how many of your planes of the 1,400 planes you have? How many planes are you actually using now?
We're probably down to 500-ish or so. But what's important about that number, which doesn't seem as drastic, is we used to fly that many planes relatively full, 80+% full this time last year. We're flying a lot fewer planes at just recently up to maybe 30% of them being filled. We call that a load factor. We've been low at practically over the last couple of months, as low as 10%, and even a couple of days of single digits. So less planes with less people in them is the real impact. So very little revenue in essence coming in for what is traditionally a very high fixed cost business.
I thought I read that from your company statements that in May of last year, um, you flew a certain number of hours in one day last year in May. You flew as much as you now fly people all of May of this year. Is that right?
Right,
Something
right,
like
right.
that.
There's a
So,
lot of math that points out to how dire the situation has been.
how many employees do you have?
We have roughly 100,000 people, plus 30 or 40,000 more that we employ as different support groups in different places.
So the flight attendants are about 50,000 or so,
About
or
26,000,
26,000. How many pilots do you have?
about 11, 12,000.
Okay, and the rest are front office employees or works at the airports
No,
or
I
other.
would say close to 80+% are frontline union employees. They work in
Okay.
our maintenance shops. They work in baggage claim. They work at the airport. They're the ones that take care of you as you go through gates.
So as a result of all this, since your revenues are down dramatically and down so much so that you could not, no airline could, nobody could survive, the federal government, as part of the CARES Act, said that we will provide you some money, and you've now gotten $5 billion from the federal government in two forms. Is that right? They've given you a grant and a loan. Is that
Right.
correct?
Right. Three.
And and you have another 5 billion you could borrow, and maybe your process of borrowing as well. So if that's $10 billion that United Airlines would get, and you're going to give some warrants to the U.S. government, you've already given some, but is that enough? Is 10 billion enough for United or your competitors? Is that enough money to keep these airlines alive?
Yeah, that's the great question of the day, David. We don't know what we don't know, and therefore, right from the start, when we saw this happening, we immediately went into markets to boost our liquidity. Again, I said we had a pretty strong financial sheet, a balance sheet, preparing for something like 9/11. This is probably three times as worse. So we went in the markets for as much loan debt that we could get. We've issued stock. We have taken the grants and the loan from the government. We have applied for the second loan, and we'll make that decision shortly about that. And then we're also finding other ways, in essence, to a degree, improve your liquidity to the best possible point, and then work on your cost structure to bring the cash burn down to a manageable degree. And then it's just time oriented.
Now, cash burn today is roughly $40 million a day. In other words, you are spending $40 million a day, in effect, losing $40 million a day. Is that more or less right?
It's more or less right. We'll keep working on that, but it's roughly the same number that we've reported publicly.
So, your peers in the airline, your competitors, let's say American or Delta, are they in the same situation? I assume largely.
Yeah, roughly. All of us spent a lot of time together, obviously at arm's length, but working through the CARES Act conversations and interacting with our legislative leaders. And we are forever grateful for the assistance that they've given us. We're one of the few industries that was carved out for this level of assistance because they do understand the economic impact, the impact we have on the economy and the wheel that we are to juice that. But we've all worked together, and I think by and large, we all have different situations and positions, but generally, I think in the same vein.
So, all of your employees today, you haven't actually laid anybody off, laid anybody off or furloughed anybody. Is that right?
Right.
And under the CARES Act, I think you're not supposed to be able to do so until October 1, if you do
That's
it at
correct.
all.
That's correct.
So after October 1, what do you think is going to happen?
So the Payroll Protection Act is what it officially is called, was granted the money to give us time to get other liquidity and make other decisions. What we have told our employees, and it's been one of the most heart-wrenching conversations and difficult to have because of all that we built together regarding trust and togetherness and the things that we've been building, is we really felt the need, myself and Scott Kirby, our current president, soon to be CEO, it was really important to let them know as honestly and as positive, as much as possible and transparently as possible, that the future was really from a standpoint of where we see our business. If we were 100%, obviously before the virus, come October 1st, there really isn't a lot of scenarios that have us back at that full strength of 100%. So in order to be able to survive enough to rebuild this company going forward, it's going to be important to manage our cost structure down. And our employees have been great in responding. A lot of them have taken voluntary leaves in order to save us from having to do any furloughs. So no decisions in that part, other than we have been probably one of the strongest communicators about the fact that post September, that it's looking like we were going to have to sort of size our network and our structure down to a certain level.
So all the planes that you have, the 900 planes you're not using, where are they, in the desert in Arizona, or where are you keeping those planes?
They're in airports, as all of the industry. They're in airports everywhere around America. I get constant calls from neighbors or old friends or relatives. I'm just driving Apple Valley, California. There's a small airport there, and it's like, wow, I saw like 10 of your planes there, Oscar. And it's like, yep, that would be. So parking spots are obviously for that many aircraft in the industry to be down are everywhere.
But you're not buying any new planes, I assume.
Yeah, no, that's probably not going to be something that we're going to be. We have some orders that we'll end up taking for contractual reasons and such over the course of the next few months and into next year. But from a long-term perspective, at this point in time, we've messaged very clearly to the world that we're not going to build a capacity before the demand is there. So that's going to be the delicate balance.
So there was a story on the news the other night where the United Airplanes seemed to be flying across the country and it was full. I think you might be taking healthcare workers or something like that. So it was full with a lot of healthcare workers, but there seemed to be the middle seats were filled, I guess. Right now, if I fly in United Airlines, are the middle seats generally going to be filled, or you're not letting anybody sit in those?
You know, it's been a difficult concept and topic for us to manage. We are trying our best to give you the distancing sort of needs that are required. But you know, our customers kind of ebb and flow. And so in that particular case, a lot of those healthcare workers showed up at the airport the next morning to get their flights back, be home for Mother's Day. And so that plane in particular got full. Generally, at that time, I think 85% of our flights that had gone out the previous month were less than half full. And only 1% of our flights were full at that level. So it's a very rare occurrence. But in this particular case, especially with healthcare workers, and so what's interesting about this time for us is that it is greenfield. Nobody knows exactly what to do. So the important part is to acknowledge a situation like that, pivot quickly, and come up with a solution. And so while blocking middle seats seems obvious to most people, that isn't necessarily the case. People are worried not about the middle seat, but the fullness of the plane. I hear that it's empty, then I show up and it's like, oh my God, it's all these people. So what we quickly pivoted to is we now let you know if you have our app or connected with us, if you're flying tomorrow, let's say, you'll get something from us that say, David, you know what, tomorrow's flight seems to be over 70% full. If you're at all uncomfortable with that, we can offer you the plane, a flight leaving 2 hours from there. And in addition, by the way, we also communicate, our air filtering systems, the electrostatic cleaning that we're doing on every aircraft, the fact that everybody's wearing face masks. We've re-engineered our food service in so many ways. So we've done all of that to ensure your mind is safe.
Let me make sure for somebody who's listening and might want to be flying. So are all of your flight attendants, do they have to wear a face mask?
Yes, and not only that, also our customers.
Okay, and suppose somebody shows up at your airplane and they don't have a face mask. Do you have them for them?
We have them for you. We also, starting today, we're providing a little amenity kit that it'll be branded. I'm not supposed to say this, but I'll let you know because you're a friend. United Clean Plus. It'll be a little amenity kit that has a snack, a water, and some hand wipes for you as you enter the aircraft, along with a mask if you need it. We're finding a lot of people are bringing their own masks for the obvious reasons.
Well, where did you get all these masks? I mean, was it hard to get, millions of masks?
Well, interestingly enough, obviously the supply of those masks has increased in large part to companies like ours, and since we're not flying internationally, not flying customers, we've taken a lot of missions to bring back PPE, to bring back and repatriate citizens that were stranded abroad. So I think we're up to more than 30 million tons of things that we brought back into the country.
So let's talk about food. I think you've changed your food. So you're not really serving the normal type of food. You are serving stuff that's prepackaged more or less.
Yeah.
Is that right?
Yeah, we're just trying to reduce touch on everything as much as possible.
And your flight attendants, they can't even sit next to each other very closely. You're keeping them apart from each other.
Distancing is a really important part that we have to continue to monitor as best as possible. The fact of it is, of course, in an aircraft, as you know, it's a very contained spot, which is why, again, we're really communicating all the different things that are being done on that aircraft to ensure that it is indeed safe and clean.
What about the lavatories? I mean, you have to clean them very regularly, and it's much
Yeah,
more
and
than
those are
living room.
clean. I mean, people would argue. I know you and I have talked about the size of
Right.
airplane labs, but you know, our flight attendants are constantly in there cleaning and servicing those as well as possible. So yeah, you know, safety and cleaning is something that's going to be really crucial and important. But we also have to extend that, by the way, into the airport itself, and hopefully working with the government, doing potentially temperature checks, spacing everyone out. It's a, you know, necessity is the mother of invention. You know, we've wanted to do so many things over time about touchless kiosks, where in essence, you don't have to touch anything. You don't have to get a piece of paper to hand out to someone. How can we do this fairly without any sort of human contact, you know, and provide you that option if you so need.
So you're boarding your planes last row to first row. Is that how you're doing it now?
Okay.
And how do you egress the opposite way, or how do you get people
No,
off?
that's, as you know, you've been in aircrafts. The people in front want to get out quickly, and I
Right.
think that's the best way, right? That's it, because
Right.
you're only in that. So the less people are passing by each other, the better.
Okay, so let's talk about how you're managing this company from remotely. So you're in your home right now, and how do you manage it? Were you equipped to do this? When did you start doing this? You're based in Illinois, so when Illinois kind of had a rule that you couldn't go to the offices, is that when you started doing that?
Yeah, we quickly began to get to, everyone went to their respective corners to be safe, clearly. And we began initially by just managing through voice. And then, of course, all these various vehicles that we have to communicate via this way became sort of the norm. It's been fascinating to watch all our different leaders. I spend a lot of time calling our officers and asking them that very same question, because we have a vast organization, you know, again, 100,000 people spread all over the world. How best to communicate, how best to answer questions about concerns. Initially, it was about safety in the workplace, and increasingly, it's about my personal situation. Am I going to be employed? So it's been a difficult mechanism to do it in this way, but we have found ways, and mostly because we meet constantly. We have a daily call with our executive team every single day, including weekends, because things are moving so quickly in our space. So many new issues arise, and we're trying to solve so many of these issues. So constant communication, honest, transparent, you know, is as much as possible. We've held town halls that have had 50, 60,000 people on them. And so again, communication, you can never over communicate in situations like
Well,
this.
do you expect that once this is over, whenever it is, that you will do some of the things that you're now doing just because it's more efficient, or you're not sure you need to use any of these techniques in the future?
You know, it's all going to evolve. I fundamentally believe that humans need connection. You and I would much rather be having this conversation face to face. It's infinitely more meaningful. And if you take personal events in our lives, a wedding, for instance, all of those things, I think over the course of time, with a vaccine or herd immunity or something, we will revert back to some of that normality. But I really do believe and very bullish on the future of aviation, because we're going to want to travel. A lot of people that I speak with can't wait to get on the next aircraft and go somewhere. But it's gonna have to be beyond how clean our aircraft are,
Right.
right? And how clean the airports. Whatever destination you're going to is also going to have to be clean. We often use for lack of a better, the Disney World or Disneyland, right? That has to be open. That has to be safe for me to put my family and my children on an aircraft to get there, and the hotels and the car rental. All of that ecosystem needs to come up at the same time.
So to be realistic about it, your internal planning is assumption that it's going to take a number of years for something to really get back to where you were.
You know, David, I wish we knew, but you have to plan for the worst and certainly hope for the best. We know for certain that come October, we're not going to be at 100%. And what number we are going to be at, I don't know, but it's going to be south of that. And so our job is to plan again for that worst scenario. We've had experiences with some of these before. Demand has taken certainly multiple months to get back to where it was. I think SARS was about 8 months. This is infinitely more global and insidious, and feel that this could last a little bit longer, absent a vaccine of some sort to make it
Now, you fly all over the world. Have you noticed that the passengers who come from, let's say, other parts of the world, when they fly on your planes, are they different than the Americans, or they act the same way? They take the same precautions. They don't take as many precautions. Are they different around the world?
Clearly, every country has its own cultures and norms. Unfortunately, though, David, we're not flying a lot of people internationally right now, so I don't have a vantage point to do that. But historically, you did see. I mean, Asian populations have been wearing masks for a long time, and you see certain people doing that, and others not. So you clearly see some of that.
So you and I have talked before about one of my favorite questions, which is support animals. So you still allow support animals to come on the planes, and
Yeah, we
you're
do.
required to do that?
Amidst all of this, everything we do on the safety and clean side has to be, balanced with I don't know, the hospitality and warmth that you should and you deserve. And so, how do we balance those things? So, things like support animals and such, we are allowing. We do have restrictions. It is just dogs and cats. I know you and I have talked about many other sort of animals that people want to bring, but dogs and cats, and they have to be of a certain age. They have to be above 4 months old, so they're not carrying anything. So
Right.
we've tried to be thoughtful and again hospitable to people that need to bring those. But again, we are allowing that.
Now, you've spent a lot of your time at United getting to know your employees. There was some, I would say, unrest in the employee base when you took over, and you spent a lot of time dealing with labor union members and other workers. Do you miss seeing these employees face to face now?
It kills me not to be able to see them. I call them all the time. We do this. I catch them. I catch them at awkward moments. A lot of them are at home and they won't put the video on because they just got out of their pajamas or their hair isn't messed up. In this world, our purpose as a corporation was to connect people and unite the world. It currently is. This is what people do for a living. We love taking care of you as you travel, and to not be there for them, to not be able to see them. I think really everyone in our company feels that loss.
So when somebody has, let's say, an immunity problem, let's suppose they've been ill, let's suppose they've had a heart transplant, does that make it more challenging to fly? And people that have health problems, are you giving them special attention, or how do you know how to deal with those people?
As a customer, we're not allowed to ask questions like that.
But if
Um,
they tell you in advance, I have
Yes,
a,
absolutely. We don't know a lot about this disease, but we have general characteristics. If anybody's in a situation where they're in that one of those affected classes, absolutely, we make allowances for those folks. We don't want to put anyone at risk or in danger of any sorts for themselves or for others around them.
well, so you're now somebody that's had a heart transplant for, let's say, about 5 years or so. So you're, reasonably good shape. You exercise a lot, but are you in more health problems because of this disease, and you have to be especially careful? And are
You
you
know, we,
doing
we
to isolate yourself?
Yeah, we don't know enough about this disease, so we should all be safe. We should all stay home. We should also all follow CDC guidelines. But you would think that someone like me, with my low immune system, in essence, could be more susceptible to this. But we fly around, we see people, we try to stay as clean and safe as possible. It is the nature of our job to be present. But over the last few weeks, I think the entire organization, we've just said, everybody hunker down. Let's do this the right thing, and lead by example.
So your children and you're all together there in the house, or your children are grown or elsewhere, or are you?
Again, as you know, no one's working in offices, no one's going to school, and so they've all three of the four have decided to shelter in place here at our home in Florida. And so it's been nice to have everybody. There's a silver lining to everything, and we've literally had family dinners every night for months now. And so there is some value there for sure.
So, what would you say you have learned about yourself through this experience? You've obviously gone through some traumatic experiences in your life. but have you learned anything through this experience that about yourself that you maybe didn't know before?
Um, well, two fronts. With regards to, because I've been through so many things, especially medically, my level of empathy and understanding of people's worries and concerns has been heightened. And a lot of the actions we are trying to take is to make sure we keep our employees and our customers safe. So that's certainly sort of directed that. But beyond that, you also learn a little bit about what you want to do in life. And you and I have been in a lot of calls and meetings with a lot of our leaders of the business community. This is clearly a time for action, and all of us have the capacity in various ways to do that. And while I'm stepping into the executive chair role at United, and I'll be very focused on that, it's also going to be important to understand and know where not only myself, but other business leaders and community leaders and people in universities and nonprofits. I think we all have a great capacity to serve and do more.
So, is there anything you wish the company had done or your industry had done in hindsight that wasn't done?
You can always go back and point to something or other, but in this particular case, our industry balance sheets were really strong. We had great growth trajectories. We had, a great deal of investment and improvement. And again, from preparing for a black swan scenario, we were there. We acted pretty quickly at United because we saw its effect. All of us could have acted a little bit quicker, but it's really hard to point to anything, and say, we tell this to our employees, it's not your fault. It's nobody's fault. It's just, this hit us so quickly.
What has United done philanthropically? I know you've flown a lot of people, healthcare workers. I think you're allowing people to take their frequent flyer miles and donate them to healthcare workers and things like that. So what has been the thrust of your philanthropic efforts at United?
Oh, there's a host of them. Because our people are generally at home, like in California, we've used a lot of our folks to just there's philanthropies that there's outreach to people that are quarantined that don't have families or maybe by themselves in their home and have nobody really around them. So our folks have been calling in and just just reaching out and say, just a voice, someone to speak with. I mean, being lonely is a very difficult thing for folks, and making them feel a little bit more accepted is a nice thing that we've been doing.
So suppose somebody says, I love United Airlines. I have a lot of frequent flyer miles, but they're going to evaporate if I don't use them by a certain date. What happens to those people? Are you going to extend them, or what are you going to do?
I think earlier last year, or late last year, we changed that expiry rule, so they never expire to begin with. We have granted a lot of our folks have reached certain levels that can't obviously fly, that will maintain that level into the coming year, so they don't have to worry about that. We have some wonderful customers, and we want to keep them. We want to make sure they understand the philanthropy, the support that we've been doing for the community, how our folks are engaged and working towards others' benefits. But it's going to be a while. I think business will start first. It'll be slow. But again, I remain bullish that on the course of time, us humans need other humans to interact with.
So you've lived through a lot, as I've mentioned, but are you an optimist on the future now? As we look at the situation your airline faces and the industry faces and the country faces, are you an optimist, or are you turned from being an optimist at this point?
Oh, I'm an optimist, absolutely, completely. We have to be, in order to drive the innovation and the creativity to change how flying in particular for us is going to be. It's a great motivator. It's necessity is the mother of invention. And already at United, we have all these incredible things. When I talked about the crowded planes and how we're able to tell you ahead of time that your plane is full and that you can change it automatically and do that online, that's a great innovation that our team is doing. That we used it for different things. Now we're using it for this. And so demand will come back slowly. I'm hoping that over the course of time, the level of service, the kind of experience that you have improves, and then over time we will have remaining issues that we have to. Right, TSA. I was talking to a class in Stanford a couple days ago. Most of those kids never knew anything pre 9/11, so they've known TSA and security lines forever. Some of us, remember when you can almost walk on the plane. And so there will be instances that we have to worry, and it'll be a bit of a hassle for a while. But again, I think human connection is going to be a continuing critical component of who we are.
So your stock price has gone down, though it's up today. So if somebody wanted to buy something at the bottom of the market, you think it's a pretty good thing to do today to buy your stock at today's low price?
Well, David, as you know, it's hard and difficult, and if downright not allowed for us to opine on
Okay.
financial transactions in any way, shape, or form. I continue to be bullish about the business and what we do for a living and how we connect people. And that, at the end of the day, is going to be what allows these companies to get back on their footing. But between now and that time, it'll be a little bit difficult. So we ask your patience and understanding as much as possible. There is nothing we do to harm anyone or create news. Everything we do, we're trying to do the right thing. It's not necessarily perfect all the time, but what you'll see United in particular do, we pivot quickly to make sure we get it
Oscar, thank you very much and welcome to the world of being an executive chairman.
right. If I could look as good as you, I'd do it even longer. So
Oh, thanks
take
very
care.
much. Good to see you. Thank you for
Thank
coming
you.
on.
Take care. Bye-bye.